VidVersity is a fantastic platform to build mandatory training because you can build really authentic training that represents your business. So in this particular video, the organisation had an hour-long video, or roughly, and they were struggling to get the engagement to someone to sit through it. So using VidVersity, they first of all edited it into chapters. And then inside the chapters, they've added things like questions, notes, and slides. So let's go and have a look. So instead of it just being a video that we're just dumping onto the learner, now it's been broken down into, there's some PowerPoints throughout it. There's some resources, so the things that are being made reference to, the learner can go and find those. There's some notes. Now let's have a look at how a note works. The first thing though is to be aware that instead of it being one whole video, it's now been broken down into chapters. So if the learner was really having to reinforce their learning around cold storage, they could simply go down to this video here and watch the chapter on that. Let's go back to the introduction. There's a PowerPoint. They click on next. Now,
this program is designed for everyone who works in the
learning experience where the learner just sits and watches this and potentially goes and grabs a cup of tea and comes back and it gets to the end. Here, there's something really special just been said. So the learner can, to engage that learning, it's popped up on the screen as a note. It's telling us that over 50 people a year are killed in the horticultural industry. So there's the why. Why is it really important that you get this training? The learner has to then click OK for the video to keep going. Now, the next thing that, as a learner's going along, at the start of your mandatory training, you might say, we're just going to test them up front, and if they've got that, that might be enough to meet your requirements. So there's some quizzes right up the front here. So how many people are killed each year? We'll put in 30. We got it incorrect. So that might mean that that's not going to be a pass, so therefore they're going to have to keep moving through it. Now, in relation to the notes that do pop up on the screen, if you go down to notes down in the bottom right, all of those notes that pop up throughout, which are what I would consider your key takeaways, are all there, and just by clicking on the print button, you've created a handout for the learner. So for mandatory training, one of often the issues is getting that engagement and often just dumping content and hoping the learner goes through it. But by designing it a bit more, maybe testing them up front, if they've got that, that would be deemed a pass and they don't have to go further. Maybe you do need to have them go through all of it, so that's what you require as a pass rate. But the other thing is the learner, they might do the training and then it's not for 6 weeks that they've actually got to wear protective clothing, and they might have forgotten it. They can dip back in and watch the chapter just on protective clothing. It's only 33 seconds and it's just all they need to be able to reinforce that learning. So we've got to make it really clear. There's the why again. Why do you have to do it? Because it's a guideline under the Safe Work Australia. And then just about to head out for the first time, and here you can see all the steps that you need to do, and you could be using your own staff to bring in that real authenticity, so the learner gets a real sense of, okay, I've got to take off my rings. If my hair's long, I've got to put that up. Keep hydrated. All of those things that is important messaging in your mandatory training. And the person can do it as many times as they need to, and you can link them to any relevant source that they need to also reinforce that learning. So mandatory training is one that's a really great use case to build that authentic, relevant, accessible content. And if you design it cleverly, you can really make it an effective training tool.